wanted to talk just a little bit about a very popular chant, actually. Uh, Many of you have probably heard it. Goes like this in Sanskrit: Asato Maa, Sad-Gamaya, Tamaso Maa, Jyotir-Gamaya, Mrtyor-Maa, Amrtam. Short. And in English, it's something like this. Lead us from the unreal to real. Lead us from darkness to the light. Lead us from the fear of death to the knowledge of immortality. It's a chant that's been chanted in yoga traditions for a very long time. It is an old chant, and it's really lovely. I mean, I would definitely call it a greatest hit with these kinds of chants. It's an ask, it's a prayer, and it's instructional. So on first reading or listening, we might say to ourselves, yeah, I want light, not darkness. That sounds good. I want peace and joy. I don't like fear. Fear kind of sucks. So I'm in, show me the way. I like this chant. Simple. That's probably why it's so popular. And that's what the chant's about. And it points to something which is really important in our practice, which is that fear is a root cause of much of our suffering. And I'm guessing we probably all know this, and we experience it all the time. Of course, we don't have fears. We know that we're wired to be afraid of things, and that it can also be helpful, especially at keeping us out of bad situations. We don't walk into the street without looking. We don't jump out of planes without proper training. We use our fear to keep us safe all the time, but fear sneaks its way in everywhere. And in the Yoga Sutras, it mentions that fear can dominate the mind of even the wise, is the quote. So even in people who have practiced a long time, know a lot about themselves, are skilled, if you want to look at it that way, at spiritual practice, here's this fear problem. But we don't need to suffer from this fear, and fear doesn't need to suppress our light and joy and our pursuit of happiness, if you like that word. It doesn't have to be that way. And so then the question becomes, well, how do we achieve that? How do we get out of this sort of fear cycle, or at least understand fear enough so that it's not dominating our experience? And there are some clues in this really 3-line verse. In the first part, the English translation that I like has these words, unreal to real. So what's the unreal? The unreal is our perception when we're not informed by the present. It's our perception when we're not in the now, we're not being informed by what is happening in real time. So when we're driven and informed by worries or by filters our mind has developed from past experiences, we aren't present. We are literally living in the unreal. And this is why we might want to meditate. Training the mind to see what's happening in real time is part of what meditation is about. In our method, we have tranquility and grounding practices that do just this. They involve chanting, they involve the thing we just did, watching our breath, right? Noticing our awareness move up and down, different types of concentration techniques. They're all different ways to bring the mind into alignment with the present moment. And when we do this regularly, we get better at it. And probably part of that better is that we get faster at it. The mind course corrects quicker. And then what happens is we spend more time naturally in what we might consider the real. In the second line, it mentions this darkness to light, which you could look at it a bunch of different ways, but one way would be darkness is really ignorance of the full potential of our mind. It's not negative per se, it's more like a lack of awareness. So not being aware of your full potential of your mind leaves us in what this chant would say is in the darkness. So awareness and pranic practices, especially those pranic practices that are in the like sort of second section of our meditation course, help us achieve a fuller, broader awareness in general. They help us achieve broader awareness states. And they teach us to expand our minds and take in all the sensory information. When I say sensory, I mean external and internal, available to us. And in this way, we give ourselves more opportunity to see the whole picture. And in this way, we're brought into the light. We can see better. We're no longer stuck in a smaller and what tends to be a more fixed point of view. And then in the third line, it says, get me away from fear of death and to knowledge of immortality. So the first thing that line really lets us know is we're not seeing everything, and that we need faith, surrender, and acceptance to achieve the perspective that we're not simply disconnected individuals who are born and die, which is a thought and a perspective that we all have. But with surrender practices, we gradually expand our awareness of our interconnectivity. So of course we die, obviously, but as part of a great whole, you know, even in a smaller way, like maybe our family, or in a bigger way, like part of all of humanity, or in the biggest way, part of all nature, we don't die. It's kind of easy to accidentally get really literal when you look at these things. Do I die or not die? And, you know, I would encourage us not to do that. But in this way, we don't die. And if we can accept this and understand this, feel this, we find that joy and light that we all desire, because the fear of death is lessened. It doesn't mean that we don't have any thoughts about it or that we are super excited for the end of this life, but that dominating our mind part of the fear gets reduced. And it becomes more clear to us that we are like nature and that we move through cycles. And most importantly, that we wouldn't want it any other way. And I'm aware as I speak those words that I might be listening to that last sentence and be like, yeah, I get it. I wouldn't want it any other way. I get it. You know, we get it. We wouldn't want to live forever. You know, maybe that would be bad. I don't know. It's occurred to us. But to really sort of imbibe that and feel it in your heart, and, you know, have an understanding that's deep within you, to the point that the fear of death begins to lessen and lets go of its grip on the mind. That's what this is talking about. So I'm hoping that this is encouraging to all of us in our practice. Peace and joy and light are outcomes of moving into the present, expanding our awareness, and surrendering to our natural place really in the universe. And it's available to all of us. One of the things I love about us personally is that it's available to all of us in different ways at different times. So it's not one thing, it's not a fixed thing the way we experience this kind of opening, awareness, growing, surrender, but we all can and do experience it. So my hope is, you know, as a community, we support each other in this goal of moving away from fear and moving into the present. And if we do that, hopefully we can bring some of that light and love and joy that we experience from it into the world, into the people around us. So thank you so much for listening. It's really, these subjects are some of my favorite subjects. So it's a joy to share them.